Look, sometimes you're working hard, giving it your all, but you're not getting what you want. Why? Because there are things more important than effort, like having the right intentions, proper planning, and trust in God. The key is finding balance between your hard work and reliance on God, and only then will you see the difference. When Prophet Muhammad migrated to Medina with the Muhajirun, they left everything behind. Their money, homes, and even their personal relationships. It's like they started from scratch. In Medina, the Ansar were truly the epitome of generosity. They opened their homes, shared their money, food, drink, and even their land, all with a willing heart and an open mind. But despite all this generosity, there was a sense of bitterness in the hearts of the Muhajirun. Imagine seeing everything you've worked for your whole life being taken away from you. Your belongings, your money, even your memories. And that's exactly what Quraysh did to them. The days passed slowly, and the years weighed heavily on the Muhajirun. They were waiting for the moment when they could reclaim their rights. And on top of that, the words of Allah came down. Permission is given to those who are being fought because they have been wronged, and indeed Allah is capable of granting them victory. Then suddenly, like lightning cutting through the darkness of the night, the news came. A massive caravan from Quraysh, led by Abu Sufyan, was going to pass near Medina on its way to Syria. But this wasn't just any caravan. It was carrying immense wealth, money, gold, and, most painfully, things they had stolen from the Muhajirun themselves. After some thought, the Prophet stood in front of his companions, looking into their eyes, and said with a firm voice, "Isn't it our right to take back what was taken from us? To reclaim our rights and raise the word of Islam?" The Prophet gathered the companions in a council to ask for their opinions on going out. The companions were very enthusiastic. Abu Bakr and Umar immediately supported the plan. Miqdad ibn Amr said, "Go forward with what Allah has shown you. We are with you. By Allah, we won't say like the children of Israel said to Musa, 'Go you and your Lord and fight, we are sitting here.' But we will say, 'Go you and your Lord and fight, we are with you, fighting.'" Sa'd ibn Mu'adh added with great enthusiasm, "If you enter the sea and wade through it, we will walk with you. We are with you until the end." These words greatly boosted the morale of the companions, and the Prophet began to motivate and guide them. The Prophet was a very organized leader. For Medina, he appointed Ibn Maktum as his deputy initially, and when they reached Ar-Rawha, he made Abu Lubaba ibn al-Mundhir responsible. Army leadership, the white flag, held by Musab ibn Umair. The Migrants Battalion, Ali ibn Abi Talib carried their banner. The Helpers Battalion, Sa'd ibn Mu'adh, carried their banner. The right flank of the army, Zubair ibn al-Awwam. The left flank of the army, Miqdad ibn al-Aswad. With perfect organization and precision, they were ready to face any challenge. The Prophet set out from Medina with about 313 men, equipped with only 70 camels and 2 horses. His plan was clear: to deal a significant blow to Quraysh's economy by intercepting their caravan, which carried their wealth and had only about 40 men protecting it. The Prophet began moving his army along the main route to Mecca, but diverted to the right near the area of Al-Naziyah to reach the wells of Badr. Before arriving, he sent 2 companions to scout for information about the Quraysh caravan. At the same time, news reached Abu Sufyan that the Prophet, peace be upon him, and his companions were coming to intercept the caravan. Rather than waiting for reinforcements from Mecca, Abu Sufyan acted quickly. He encountered Majd bin Amr near the Badr area, who informed him that 2 riders had recently passed through. Using his sharp wit, Abu Sufyan inspected the droppings of the camels and found date pits, realizing that the Prophet's army was nearby. In a clever move, Abu Sufyan changed the caravan's route, leaving Badr to his left, successfully evading the Prophet's army and saving the caravan before they could arrive. When the news reached the people of Mecca, they quickly mobilized an army of about 1,000 fighters, including 600 in armor, along with 700 camels and 100 horses. Even though Abu Sufyan sent word of the caravan's safe escape and asked them to return, Abu Jahl insisted on moving forward. His plan was to reach Badr and stay there for 3 days, indulging in feasts, drinking, and singing, to assert Quraysh's dominance and prestige. What do you think the Prophet, peace be upon him, and his companions did when they heard the news? When the Prophet learned that the caravan had escaped and that Quraysh was determined to proceed, he decided not to retreat. He knew that returning to Medina at this point could signal weakness and provide Quraysh with an opportunity to strengthen their military position. He convened an urgent military council with his companions, explaining the gravity of the situation and the critical decisions they needed to make. The Muslims, both the Muhajirin, immigrants, and Ansar, helpers, stood firmly with the Prophet, peace be upon him, and assured him of their readiness to confront the enemy. The Prophet gave them glad tidings, saying, "Proceed with the blessing of Allah and be assured, for Allah has promised me one of the two groups. By Allah, it is as if I can now see the places where the enemy will fall." The Prophet, peace be upon him, was determined to reach the wells of Badr before the Quraysh army, to prevent them from gaining control of the water source. When the Muslim army arrived near the wells, they camped there. However, Al-Hubab ibn al-Mundhir, one of the companions, asked the Prophet whether the choice of this spot was a revelation from Allah or a strategic decision. When he learned it was the latter, Al-Hubab proposed a brilliant plan. The army should camp at the lowest water source nearest the enemy, construct a basin to store water for the Muslims, and block the Quraysh from accessing the wells. The Prophet approved the idea and moved the army to the suggested location. Sa'd ibn Mu'adh suggested building an elevated headquarters on a hill overlooking the battlefield to ensure the safety of the Prophet in case of any setbacks. The Prophet praised the idea, and the structure was built. Sa'd and a group of young Ansar were assigned to guard the headquarters. Can you imagine preparing for a major battle and planning it all within hours? Truly remarkable. On the night before the battle, the Muslims spent their time in prayer and preparation. The Prophet earnestly and sincerely supplicated to Allah, saying, "O Allah, where is what you have promised me? O Allah, fulfill what you have promised me. O Allah, if this small group of Muslims is destroyed, you will no longer be worshipped on earth." With their prayers, unwavering trust in Allah, and hope despite their small numbers, Allah answered their supplication. He sent a light rain that had a profound positive impact. The sand beneath their feet became firm, facilitating their movement. Their hearts were filled with tranquility, cleansed of anxiety and doubts. This moment is beautifully described in the Quran. Remember when he overwhelmed you with drowsiness, giving security from him, and sent down upon you rain from the sky to cleanse you thereby and remove from you the evil suggestions of Satan, and to make steadfast your hearts, and plant firmly thereby your feet. Surah Al-Anfal, 11. Then, the awaited moment arrived. On the 17th of Ramadan in the second year of Hijrah, the two armies met in a decisive battle. The Quraysh initiated the attack, led by Al-Aswad ibn Abdul Asad, who vowed to drink from the Muslims' water or destroy their basin. Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib confronted him and killed him, igniting the battle between the two sides. At the beginning of the battle, three warriors from Quraysh, Utbah, Shayba, and Al-Walid ibn Utbah, stepped forward, challenging the Muslims to a duel. Three Ansar fighters advanced to face them, but the Quraysh warriors demanded opponents from their own tribe. The Prophet responded by sending Ubaidah ibn al-Harith, Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib, and Ali ibn Abi Talib. The duel ended swiftly with a decisive victory for the Muslims and the deaths of the Quraysh champions. Following this early defeat, the Quraysh forces, enraged, launched a furious assault using hit-and-run tactics. The Prophet relied on a well-organized battle formation, with the front rows armed with spears to counter the attack, while the rear rows launched arrows. This strategy maintained the Muslims' cohesion and effectively neutralized the momentum of the Quraysh assault. Despite being outnumbered, the Muslims fought courageously. The Prophet continued to pray fervently to Allah, and soon a revelation came, bringing glad tidings of divine support. Remember when you asked help of your Lord, and he answered you, "Indeed, I will reinforce you with 1,000 from the angels, following one another." Surah Al-Anfal, 9. The angels descended to strengthen the believers and cast terror into the hearts of the disbelievers. The Prophet, peace be upon him, did not limit himself to leading the battle from afar. He actively participated in the fighting. In a critical moment, he took a handful of dust and threw it toward the disbelievers, proclaiming, "The multitude will be defeated, and they will turn their backs in retreat." Miraculously, the dust reached the eyes of all the Quraysh fighters, causing confusion and disarray in their ranks. This moment marked the beginning of their collapse, leading to their decisive defeat. The Battle of Badr, also known as the Battle of Al-Furqan, was a pivotal turning point in Islamic history. Despite their small numbers and limited resources compared to the well-equipped Quraysh army, the Muslims' deep faith, the Prophet's exceptional leadership, and the divine assistance they received at critical moments ensured their victory. This triumph was not merely a military success. It significantly bolstered the position of the Muslims in the Arabian Peninsula and dealt a severe blow to the prestige of Quraysh, which had long considered itself the dominant power in the region. Imagine if the events of the Battle of Badr happened in our time. Let's reflect together. The Ansar wouldn't have welcomed the Muhajirun in the first place. They'd probably say, "Their problem isn't ours. Let them figure it out on their own." The spirit of solidarity that defined that era has now become just a story in history books. Hope in Allah and trust in His power. It's become the last thing we think about, as if we've forgotten the true meaning of reliance on Him. And wars? They're no longer fought for faith or principles, but for power and the establishment of authority. Back then, there was a prophet leading the Ummah with wisdom and vision. But today, we sit scrolling on our phones, waiting for someone to speak or act, while no one steps up to take responsibility or initiative. If we've learned anything from the stories of the past, it's that hope, faith, and action are what change reality, not negativity or surrender.